Hey y'all, it is January the 4th, 2018, and y'all, we've discussed the whole world already in this series of videos of confusion. The people utterly confused with their lives, getting into sexually what could be devastating scenarios. And the fact is, we're not telling our children about it, even though people should warn children about it because it is really bad. We're talking about a world of just unnatural relations where this doesn't naturally happen. It's only money that's making it happen. And we're talking about unbelievable amounts of money making this happen. All the sexual relations. It's really degrading to our society, but at the same time, there's certain people's lives who are going to get absolutely devastated by maybe even being falsely accused of stuff. There's all sort of people who's getting raped, and this article that we've been going through definitely explains how the environment is absolutely suitable for people to accidentally get raped, for sure. All right, I mean, for sure it is. It leaves a lot of opportunity for ladies, and especially ladies, young ladies, to get raped. All right, and maybe people won't believe them. Maybe it'll get swept under the rug. But however, what this article is not discussing, which is interesting, is that there's certainly men, but not on the level of ladies, certainly. But there's certainly men who are as well getting raped, for sure. Positively, 100%, they are definitely getting raped. All right, getting drugged up, doped up, and raped like hell in their booties, all over the place. That's happening. And of course, just to take it even further, children. Absolutely. 100%. That's not my opinion here. Alright? These people are secretive in nature, and we're discussing their whole secret orgy world that they think is making the world better and stuff. But anyways, at this point, we were discussing how this environment absolutely is oppressive to women, and it is. It certainly is. And we were discussing that right now. As we jump back into the article, when Crawford was raising funds for her second company, and this is a lady, a female entrepreneur in the tech industry, says a social media app called Glimpse is what she's developing. She's raising funds for it. She went to dinner with what's called an angel investor at a hip restaurant on San Francisco's Valencia Street, Silicon Valley, the heart of it. At the end of the meal, he handed her a check for $20,000. Well, that seems, I guess, appropriate. He's an investor, right? He hands her a check for $20,000 and then immediately tried to kiss her. That's unnatural. In no means has that ever been a thing where, like, traditionally speaking, that's how business transactions go down. That's under the table stuff. That's inappropriate nature. But that did happen to her. Allegedly, she says, I certainly wasn't coming on to him at all. She says, I kind of leaned back and he ordered me an Uber. I leaned back from the kiss and he ordered me an Uber. And I was like, I gotta go home. She said, I gotta go home. Yeah, you do. He ordered you an Uber. Of course you gotta go home. He ordered you an Uber. That means you go home now. All right? So Crawford thinks it's likely that this particular investor knew about her sexual openness. He had heard through the grapevine that she's turned out in all sort of ways. She's turned herself out. He heard about it. And he found it difficult to think of her simply as an entrepreneur at that point. Very difficult to think of her that way. Rather, he thought of her as a potential hookup. This encounter is an example of a unique penalty that women face if they choose to participate in the we're all cool about sex scene. That is an unfortunate reality and a penalty that they face because she's trying to get a startup. She's not trying to have sex at all in this particular situation. Meanwhile, the situation became dependent on her giving sex. $20,000 worth of it, please. All right? So let's just continue. Ava was working as an executive assistant at Google when she ran into her married boss at a bondage club in San Francisco. And y'all, this is where it really heats up. This is where you need to send children out of the room if you haven't already. He was getting a blowjob from a woman strapped to a spanking bench. All right, who was being entered by another man from behind, and she walked up on it on accident. Her boss at Google, the very liberated, everybody's feminist and stuff, and we're very liberal. Google, she ran into her boss, getting a BJ all out in the open. Ladies on a spanking bench, what's called a spanking bench, getting entered from behind. That's just what happens, dude. That's part for the course, right? So she ran up on that. Ava and her boss, an engineer, locked eyes before, but didn't exchange a word at all. They locked eyes while he's getting a blowjob by this lady. She's getting entered from behind. She's getting manipulated to the maximum. Right at that point, she's probably all doped up, this lady. All right. I don't know how consensual it is. It's very hard to tell what's consensual. I'm going to talk about that a lot in great detail later. But suffice it to say, Ava and her boss, who is an engineer, locked eyes while this was happening, but didn't exchange a word and never spoke of the encounter again. However, a few months later, at a Google off-site event, another married colleague approached her from out of the blue. He hits on me, and I was like, "What are you doing? Don't touch me." "Who are you again?" is what she was saying. And he was like, "I know who you are. You're at the sex parties. Don't you do all the sex things?" The other guy said, "You like all this stuff," is what the guy said. He said, someone had outed Ava for even being at the party. Someone had outed her. And so now she's got to deal with the situation permanently now. All right. So she quit working at Google shortly thereafter for obviously good reason. The trust works one way, Ava says. The stigma for a woman to do it is much higher. I'm supposed to be in this industry where everyone is open and accepting, which is what they preach all the time. But as a woman, the punishment is much more unknown. Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. So let's continue. Crawford can't even count the number of men who've told her how lucky she is to have so many eligible men to date in the male-dominated tech scene. Just absorb that. For any of y'all who feel like you're feminists out there, I just want to read that one more time. Crawford can't even count the number of men who've told her how lucky and fortunate she is to have so many eligible men to date in the male-dominated tech scene. All of the privileges, according to her, in the world, that is not the one that she would choose. Out of all the privileges that she could have, she'd rather that not be one of them. And she says it fiercely. She said, I would choose equal pay, which is already debunked in some stupid old bullshit. But she says, I would choose equal pay for equal work. And to that, I would agree. Yeah, she should get equal pay. Women should all get equal pay for equal work. However, the door is being closed on them. They can't get the work done because they're not sucking and jerking off dudes behind the scenes. That's what we're noticing. And that is a problem. And to which that I would agree. However, it does have to be equal work. All right. I choose having better access to capital and power as a privilege that she would choose, rather than having to do all these things to fellas. She said, I choose not being passed over for promotions, which probably is something that really does happen, especially in the Silicon Valley world, especially there. She said, I choose not having to worry about things, about being the 23.1% of undergraduate college women who are sexually assaulted. Hold on, we're going to read the rest of her little paragraph. She says, I choose not being slut-shamed. I would choose not being slut-shamed if I do opt to explore my sexuality in a very public nature. And I added that last part. But the thing is, before we end off on this short video, I want to discuss that although we agree completely, me and this Miss Crawford do agree, women are being held down explicitly in this industry. And it is a hush-hush thing. We're not supposed to talk about it. We definitely disagree on her fantastical numbers that 1 in every 4 women who go to college are sexually assaulted, that cannot, I mean, that's been debunked thousands of times over at this point. And meanwhile, common sense would just tell you that if there was a place on earth where 1 out of 4 women are going to get sexually assaulted, aka raped, you wouldn't want to send them there no more. That would be absurd, right? Actually, that doesn't exist. It's a number that was made up. But meanwhile, she talks about that, and she'd rather, she doesn't think that this is necessarily a privilege that she would like, being gawked after, being treated so objectively in this kind of world, and having a door shut on her on every sort of opportunity because she's not doing sexual favors for people, right? She's disturbed by that, but she's also very confused as to the numbers of people who in America actually do get raped and sexually assaulted. She's probably very confused by that because she herself exists in Silicon Valley, and she doesn't realize that across the nation the numbers actually go way, way, way down. It does happen. Ladies and men alike do get raped, but not at the extreme severity in which it happens in Silicon Valley. That's what we're coming to know. So she's very, and then not only she is a little bit confused as to how often women get sexually assaulted in the world. And it is too much. The numbers are too high, but they're not this high at all. And then she said, I choose not being slut shamed. But the thing is about slut shaming is what we're understanding from this whole article is, what is a slut? What isn't a slut? Like, what is consent? What isn't consent? It's becoming very blurred. You know what I'm saying? What is slut shaming? Is slut shaming us merely talking about how people seem to be ruining their lives? Is that slut shaming? Or is it slut shaming? What is slut shaming? Is it knocking on your door telling you, hey, you're a bad person, you're a bad person, you're a bad person, because you're a female and you happen to explore your sexuality? What is slut shaming? She seems very concerned about this. Miss Crawford seems very concerned about slut shaming, and at the same time, she is literally in the process of inventing robots for you to hang out with, and sex robots and things of this nature. She's very confused in her head, but she is playing around with big amounts of money at the same time, and she feels very much victimized. And she wants to talk about it, and I want to talk about it, and Emily Chang wants to talk about it, and we're going to continue in the next video. It's a long series of videos, but we're coming to the end of it. We're about to wrap it up. Y'all, I'll holler at y'all in the next video. It's January the 8th, 2017. We are balls deep, and I'm sorry if you find that to be offensive. I'll holler at y'all.